It's again time for transportation talk with David. It's been a while since we've been together. Want to talk to you a little bit today, maybe 5 or 10 minutes at the most, hopefully shorter, about the elephant in the room, and that's called retention. Guys, listen. We fight and fume over retention internally. We figure, say, why are these guys leaving? What are they doing? What can we do to have them stay? We've thrown some money at it. We've actually started programs, and then something else happens and they go somewhere else. What what is the most important thing we can talk about as far as the elephant in the room on retention? Well, there are certain things that can be done that doesn't really have a lot of cost to it that will save a tremendous amount of money. And the money that you save is probably a better return than you'll get anywhere else in the country or in the world. Be honest with you. I want you to think about this. I'm going to throw this out there and I'm going to let it run around for the next 5 minutes and then we're going to talk about it. If you could save around $1 million to 2.5 million in a company that has somewhere between 500 to 1,000 trucks, does that catch your attention? If you've got 100 trucks, does 150,000 catch your attention? Think about that. What could you do and with your size of a company if you had that kind of additional money coming in or staying in your company? How does that happen? A good, solid retention program and a good, solid retention department. Guys and ladies, we put a lot of stock in our recruiting department and in our safety department and in our operations department and in our HR departments. We need to put stock and we need to put investment into a retention department. Why? Because retention will actually pay dividends. Retention will lead you to further, more profitable growth. I'll prove it. First of all, if we look at the problem, why are our drivers leaving? That's the question. And we know some answers, but what are we doing to solve it? We don't have to pay them the highest pay out there. We just need to be fair with the driver. We need drivers want to feel like they're part of something. They want respect. They want recognition for doing a job well. When they do good jobs, they want you to give them, hey, great job, Joe. Great job, Mary. Great job, Lakita. Great job, Jarvis. Great job, Javier. They want this recognition. Now, pay is very important. But how do we get to that level and how do we keep those drivers? Number one, number one, we set up a retention department that gives them the human touch. Think about this. We recruit to hire, correct? And we hire to retain. Now, I'm not saying that you don't need a title of recruiting and retention. That's great because if your recruiter didn't do their job correctly as the director or VP, you need to step in and help retain that driver by making sure they understand everything. That is absolutely correct. But what about when the driver's been there for 60 days, 90 days? The recruiter's been paid, the driver's been counted as part of the fleet. If we can keep that driver and we can stay in touch on a regular controlled basis for 90 to 120 days, we have the statistics have shown that driver is going to stay a year on the majority, 85% of them typically. Now, who do we lose during the interim? We need to find out why. We need to find out why they left, what happened. We need to do those exit interviews because with that data, we can get better. So, reasons that drivers stay, they want to feel part of something. They want to feel part of a team. They want to feel part of the success. And with that comes that recognition and that reward. Now, how do we get your company to be retention compliant? Well, we have to coach. We have to mentor. We have to lead by example, and we have to work diligently between the recruiting, the safety, the operations, and we have to have everybody pulling for the same goal. That if we have a good driver, we want to retain them within reason at all costs. Now, if they're not safe, then they're not a good driver. If they don't show up on time all the time, they're not a good driver. If they're constantly making excuses, maybe they're not as good a driver as we needed. So we want to, first of all, make sure we've got quality and retain the quality. What does that do for us in the long term? Well, we're in a downturn. We've been in a downturn, one of the longest, not the longest, but one of probably in the top three in the recent modern history. And I believe once the rest of the carrier attrition happens over the next probably quarter and a half, toward the end of the year, quarter four, maybe quarter one, 25, quarter two, 25, you're going to see us back in a growth stage. And, we don't want to have to go back into the wild west of recruiting that we did coming out of the pandemic. Now, it will get nice and wild and fun, but we also want to be able to retain, because retaining means our company can grow. And that means your recruiters can hire more quality drivers. So that's the biggest thing you want to always have in place. And if you wait till you get back to that point of the wild, wild west of recruiting, your retention is going to go by the wayside if you haven't laid the foundations now. And I said this 9 years ago, but we didn't take it serious because everything was rolling right along. We had a couple of minor downturns, but nothing major. So we really need to concentrate on retention. Now, how do we save our drivers? How do we put money back into our expenses? Well, we've cut budget for our recruiters, our recruiting departments, which is the smart thing to do at this time. But we need to set up a retention department. And with that, if, for example, you have a 500 truck company, and this works on the same percentage basis if you have a 100 truck company, if you've got a 1,000 truck company, or if you've got a 10,000 truck company, you just do it on a bigger scale. But if we've got a 500 truck company, and that company has 125 to 150% turnover. Oh, we don't have that, David. Well, I'm going to ask you a question. Are you hiring 10 drivers every week or more? And you're a 500 truck. Well, then you're hiring almost 130% of your fleet. So yes, there is an issue. There's a few companies that might be at that 100 or lower, but this can apply to you too, because you can drive yours down 10 to 15%. But what happens is if we can retain 15% of those drivers that were controllable turnovers. In other words, no drug test failure, they didn't fail a drug test, medical, safety, or anything else. They chose to leave for whatever reason. If we can put in process those things that will save them, and we reduce it by 15%, you just added to your bottom line around $1.2 million. Do the math. I've got a sheet here that we can get on the phone together, and I can show it to you how that works. You will save 1.2 to 1.3 million. If you've got 1,000 truck company, it's going to be in the 2.2, 2.4 million. If you've got 100 truck company, you're going to be in about 150 range, 1,000. So what can you do with that money? That pays for your retention program. Your retention program, time you pay salaries, taxes, benefits, should only be around $150,000 or less in a 500 truck company, maybe 175. I'll take that return of the investment over Wall Street, over other investments any day of the week. I'll take it over gold if I had to. So keep that in mind. And what I say by teeth in your retention program is this being promoted at the top all the way down? It has to have 100% buy-in, because if the president and down are promoting it, then the people that are putting the feet to it will take it seriously. So keep in mind, are you retention compliant? Get the elephant out of the room, and you guys have a great week. Hit me up for any comments on LinkedIn. I'd love to hear from you. Again, David at Transportation Talk.